I want to talk to you about a problem that many people face, but is never really talked about in schools. But before I do, let me share a personal story with you. I was in second grade before I actually knew what it was that I faced. It started with password issues for logging into school computers, but grew as I progressed throughout the year. I happened to be in my elementary school's gifted program, which meant that every Thursday I spent 3.5 hours with the other kids in second and third grade who were also in the program. Another way to put it, we were the kids who learned differently. We tended to learn math 3 times as fast as the average second and third graders. I had been given a set of instructions for what I needed to have in my password. It needed to be at least 6 characters long, it should have a capital letter, and it should also have a number. After said password was created, I was supposed to write it down. I made one up and wrote it down, but in that process, something went wrong, and the next time we needed to use it, it didn't work again. The people had to reset the password, and I tried the process again, and again, and again. It happened about 5 times, and then I managed to create a password that actually worked. My anxiety grew each time that the password wouldn't work, and in the end, I developed the need to be better and to never make a mistake, as I thought, as silly as that, again. I had needed to have people talk to me about what perfectionism was and how to deal with it. But no one did. I fell into the pit with a lot of other people who struggled with perfectionism and, like everyone else, struggled to get out. Perfectionism is, in other words, the idea of everything needing to be perfect. I know that there are many people who have experienced perfectionism or who have to deal with it daily. For example, there was a girl in my language arts class that asks tons of questions about every single assignment and is always worried about failing. For me, it's more of a constant struggle between things being good enough or not. For a recent essay, I had a friend read every single paragraph to make sure that I spelled everything right and all that. But I was still really nervous about turning my essay in when it was due. Many people struggle with perfectionism in different ways, like you've seen the difference between the girl from language arts and myself. But there are many other types of perfectionism. There are the people who do extra and attempt to overachieve, but then in the end, stay up really late and finish projects and completely overstress about all of their other schoolwork that they remember the next morning. There are also the kids who spend an hour on a 10-minute assignment and still think that's not good enough, which is similar to me. I'm here today to address how this struggle can start to be overcome. My perfectionism was a whole lot worse when I was in elementary school than it is now, and I learned how to overcome this struggle mostly on my own. It's a little bit hard to explain how I did this, but I'll try to explain it as best as I can. There are a few key steps to starting to overcome perfectionism that I will explain. The first step, which is the most important one, is that you need to realize that you actually are a perfectionist. For me, I realized that I was a perfectionist in 4th grade, again in my school's gifted program. We were working on brain presentations in groups of about 5. In my group, I let the other people start and then was going to share all my ideas. The problem was, I was a little bit too shy to share my ideas. And the other people in my group weren't really willing to let me come and help with their parts. The week before we were going to present, I ended up being the one getting all the final touches ready for all the other groups, but I still hadn't actually done much for the group I was in. Lucky for me, it just so happened that I was feeling sick the next week, so I got to miss the presentation of our project. If I had been there and the presentation had gone wrong, I would have felt that it was all my fault, because that is a strong part of my perfectionism. This was when I realized how exactly perfectionism affected me. I was lucky to have missed that day of school, which not everyone's going to have that experience, but I actually never guessed that it would benefit me greatly. This helped me because I stopped caring about everything always having to be perfect, and slowly but surely became more focused on the actual content of stuff and not just the appearance and the content, which was definitely overachieving and too much for me. What I've realized throughout the course of my education is that everyone deals with perfectionism, but that some people can deal with it better than others. Some ways that I've dealt with it are writing my feelings out in a journal, which I know might sound rather weird, but journaling can help a perfectionism learn how to ignore the little mistakes and get to what really matters. Another thing that you might want to try is watching your fingers while you type. This is something a lot of beginning typer peoples do, but it's something that actually has helped me a lot. It really helps you ignore what you're actually putting on the screen, including mistakes, and helps you focus on the important ideas. One last way that I've dealt with perfectionism is forcing myself to allow the other people around me to talk and just listening. When I'm forced to listen, I end up allowing the other people to take the lead, and without realizing it, I work better with others. It helps me lose the stigma that is the main support beam for perfectionism. Once that main support beam snaps, the whole structure starts to collapse, which forces my anxiety and perfectionism to greatly decrease. Overall, there are many ways to deal with perfectionism, and yes, I am not an expert, but I know from experience what the effects of perfectionism are and how I've overcome them. Believe it or not, some simple changes of focus can make a huge positive difference for perfectionism. Thank you.